She stood in a courtroom, looking at the man who killed her son, and everyone expected her to scream, to curse him, to demand he suffer the way her family had suffered. Instead, she walked toward him, looked him in the eyes, and said 3 words nobody in that courtroom ever forgot. "I forgive you." Carol sat on the floor of Brian's old bedroom, sobbing over that journal entry for almost an hour, overwhelmed by the strange, aching grace of finding her son's own words about forgiveness in the exact season she needed them most. That night, for the first time since Brian's death, Carol prayed a different kind of prayer. "God, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to forgive the man who killed my son." But Brian believed in this. He believed in exactly what Pastor Reeves has been trying to tell me for months. "Please help me find a way to release this anger, not for Tyler Grant's sake, but so I can honor the kind of heart my son actually had." Forgiveness didn't happen instantly for Carol. It came slowly, painfully, over the following months, through continued prayer, through difficult conversations with Pastor Reeves, through a long process of grief counseling that helped her separate the necessary work of justice from the personal, consuming bitterness she had been carrying. She continued attending Tyler's court proceedings, but with a gradually shifting posture, less consumed by rage, more focused on the practical process of accountability without the corrosive anger that had once defined every moment of it for her. The sentencing hearing took place almost a year after Brian's death. Tyler Grant, now 23, stood before the court visibly remorseful, having pled guilty to the charges against him, offering a tearful statement expressing genuine regret for the life he had taken and the family he had devastated. Carol had been asked, as part of the victim impact portion of the hearing, whether she wished to address the court. She had prepared a statement weeks in advance, revised multiple times, wrestling until the very morning of the hearing with exactly what she wanted to say. She stood before that courtroom, Frank's hand steady on her shoulder, and spoke words that surprised almost everyone present, including, in some ways, herself. "My son Brian spent his life running toward people in crisis, choosing again and again to help strangers in their worst moments. I found, after he passed, some of his own private writings about forgiveness, about refusing to let bitterness poison a life meant for something better. I have spent the last year wrestling with more anger than I ever knew I was capable of carrying. But I do not want that anger to be the legacy of my son's life. Tyler Grant, I do not forgive what you did. What you did was wrong, and there are consequences for that which this court will rightly determine. But I forgive you. I release the hatred I have carried toward you, not because you deserve it, but because holding on to it was killing something in me that my son would never have wanted to see happen." Carol then did something nobody in that courtroom, including her own attorney, had expected. She walked toward Tyler Grant, and in front of the stunned court, looked him directly in the eyes. "I forgive you," she said again, quietly, only for him to hear. "I hope you spend the rest of your life honoring the weight of what that means." Tyler broke down completely, sobbing in a way that revealed the full weight of guilt he had been carrying, unable to speak beyond a broken, repeated apology. The story of that courtroom moment spread quickly through Carol's community, then further, eventually reaching local news coverage that captured the extraordinary grace of a grieving mother extending forgiveness to the man who had killed her son. Carol became, somewhat unexpectedly, an advocate for restorative justice programs, speaking at churches and community events about her journey through grief and forgiveness, careful always to be honest about how difficult and non-linear that process had actually been. "People sometimes think forgiveness means the pain disappears," Carol says now, several years removed from that courtroom. "It doesn't. I still miss my son every single day. I still cry more than people probably realize. But forgiveness released me from a second kind of suffering, the poison of bitterness that was slowly destroying everything good that was left in me. Choosing to forgive didn't diminish what happened to Brian. It honored the kind of man he actually was." Carol still attends Trinity Baptist Church today, her faith rebuilt on a foundation far more tested and, in her words, far more genuine than it had been before Brian's death. Tyler Grant, upon completing his sentence, reached out to Carol through Pastor Reeves, and the two of them have maintained a cautious, evolving relationship in the years since, one that Carol describes not as friendship, but as a shared commitment to honoring the gravity of what happened through ongoing accountability and grace. If you are carrying bitterness towards someone who has deeply wronged you, someone whose actions feel unforgivable, please hear Carol's story and let it speak gently into whatever you're holding on to. Forgiveness is rarely instant, and it is never a denial of the real harm that was done. But bitterness carries its own devastating cost, one that often continues long after the original wound, quietly poisoning the very heart it lives inside. Carol didn't forgive because Tyler Grant deserved it. She forgave because she refused to let his choices determine the condition of her own heart for the rest of her life. Whatever you are carrying tonight, however justified your anger may be, ask God to help you release the weight of it, not for the person who hurt you, but for the sake of your own healing. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is one of the most powerful things Jesus ever taught us to do.